Hey everybody, how you doing tonight? Oh, well, tonight where I am. Who knows what time it is where you are? You probably do. So, happy whatever it is. Episode 2, long belated. About time we had a little bit look more of the plans I have, the structure I have in mind. What way should this pan out? The old line is, he who plans to fail, fails to plan. And I plan not to fail, therefore I will fail not to plan. That should make plenty of sense. And that's one of the things I want to look at today, as well as starting to try and develop the actual edit a little bit. So we'll jump straight into having a look at what the structure should be. I want a 10-tier League of Ireland. It doesn't exist. It's 2 tiers right now. Let's see what my plan for that structure is. It's already up on what the name of the thing is. I've just put it up on the Google Drive, so you can look up structure there and you'll see bits and pieces like this. This little bit here has been adapted and fixed. I'll talk about that a little bit later. So 10 tiers, 3 at a national level, 3 at an intermediate, or as we call it in Ireland, the senior level. So if you heard of the Leinster Senior League, that's what the intermediate level is, and 4 at a junior level. The reality is there are 2 currently at a national level. Senior league wise, there's a ton, but they're mostly all either the Leinster Senior League or the Munster Senior League, and it's beyond the first tier, the Leinster Senior League proper, the Munster Senior League proper. It's kind of hard to say what really is and what isn't intermediate. It's a very, very grey area, as you would expect when you've got multiple tiers. And they aren't in any way connected up with things like all these junior leagues, like the Donegal, the Galway, the AUL. The Leinster Senior League is basically a Dublin-based league with a few other clubs from around the country in it. The AUL is a Dublin-based league. That's just Dublin, but doesn't, I don't think, connect up in any kind of real pyramid sense. So there's teams at the top of the AUL would reckon that they're at least as good as teams in the Leinster Senior League 1B. The Leinster Senior League is a massive league. It's one of the biggest leagues in Europe and run, I think, primarily by the Leinster FA. It's meant to encompass all the teams in Leinster, but of course it doesn't. Because in Ireland, as in many countries that aren't stratified like Britain or Italy or Spain, there is a sense of, screw you guys, we're good enough ourselves. Those of you who follow football in the US probably know there's the MLS, there used to be an NASL, and then there was another NASL. And in recent years with the second NASL were not given official status by the USSF, the United States Soccer Federation. They were told they were a second tier team, and so consequently what ends up happening is they decide, well, no, screw those guys, we are actually every bit as good as the MLS, and it is our stated goal to eventually become the top tier league, because it's more business based. It's more how much money you're willing to put into it in many ways. We've got a bit of that in Ireland. A Wexford district team, Wexford Junior League team might see themselves as just as significant or as important as a National League team or a League of Ireland team. Certainly when it comes to getting money for players being sent on, they see themselves as that. So there's been a lot of difficulty, and the league, as I've said before, is not particularly stratified. This is, oh my god, this is super stratified. Every team in the country that I will create can get eventually, in theory, to the Premier Division. So let's have a look at it. First off, obviously, the national tiers, the top 3. Premier Division, currently it's 10, we're going to make it 16. First Division, currently 10, we're going to make it 16. Which means we need to add 12 new teams here. Most of them are going to go into the First Division, because let's face it, I want the teams at the top to be more or less the best teams. The third tier will have a Second Division North and a Second Division South. Now, we did have a kind of a third tier for a while. It was the A-League, and the A-League kind of functioned loosely as the third part of the pyramid. Unfortunately, most of the teams in the A-League were basically teams who were reserve sides trying their luck, and ultimately what ended up happening is it kind of folded. Two teams got promoted out of the A-League, that being Merview United and Salt Hill, Devon Salt Hill, who renamed themselves eventually as SD Galway, Salt Hill Devon Galway. But beyond that, there was a Tullamore Town. There was, who else was there? There was a team from Carlow, not based in Carlow Town, strangely enough. And they all kind of, some of them collapsed because it had the same, the junior leagues and the senior leagues ran a winter league, and the national leagues ran a summer league, because that's completely sensible. And they didn't link up. There's a huge problem with Ireland and stratification and unification of ideas. So we're going to have a little bit more fun outside of the national. Seeing as I want to see the senior leagues taken properly seriously, they're probably going to be a little bit more unified, and all of them are going to have 12 divisions. 12 teams in each division. The two north and south, they're going to be 16 teams each. Eventually they'll play off for a second division championship. I figured out how to do that finally last year, where it wasn't a poxy looking Super Cup. So we're going to struggle possibly, but make that happen this year again. As regards to the senior leagues, so we have quite a few. In real life we have the Leinster Senior League, which I'm splitting into the Leinster North and South, and the Munster Senior League. And then we have the Connacht and Ulster. There was a Connacht Senior League at one time. There's occasionally an Ulster Senior League. Sometimes it doesn't really overlap as much as I would like. But I'm going to combine the two of them because honestly, because Ulster is so small, because Connacht is so underdeveloped footballing wise. Outside of Sligo. Anyway. Combining the two of them makes some sense, and also it makes it easier because it's difficult to get uneven numbers going up. We want the teams from Leinster North and Connacht and Ulster to go into the second division North, and Leinster South and Munster going into second division South. Straightforward so far. So with the 16 team division, we can have 3 or even 4 maybe coming from Leinster South and Munster into the second South, and the same over here. I don't really want more than 2 teams per league going up. We could make it 5, but that means that basically you're going to have probably 2 going up from each, which is 4 going down from the first. So the top 2 are gone. The bottom few are going to be in trouble. We're going to be having a lot of fun with relegation battles and stuff like that. We'll talk about these differentiated regional divisions later in terms of how to structure those. It's not easy. It's not easy at all, but it's definitely worthwhile. Senior leagues, so Connacht and Ulster will then split at the 5th tier into 2 12-team divisions, one for Connacht, one for Ulster, so those will be the Connacht and Ulster senior leagues proper, and then further split down again, following the same road, into the Connacht first and the Ulster first. These leagues don't exist right now. We're creating them because I think, again, it'll be more fun, more interesting. In Leinster, we're going to have the Leinster North, the North Premier, and then the Leinster North First, or North Division 1. Similarly, on the other side, we'll have the Leinster South, then the Leinster South Premier and Leinster South First, but also feeding into Leinster South, making it more of a bottleneck and making it more of a challenge to get promoted. We're also going to have the Southeast League, Southeast Senior League, because there's so many teams in the Southeast, it kind of deserves it. Leinster South becomes basically mostly Dublin, probably a bit of Bray. No, screw it. Mostly Dublin. And the likes of Kildare, maybe Laois. Maybe not Laois. and the southeast follows down again. We'll follow where those go in a moment. Munster, fairly straightforward. The Munster Senior League, Munster First Division, and there was at least coded into the game. There's a Munster Second, but I'm creating a Munster West and a Munster East because that won't be complicated at all. So the theory goes. Again, 2 of those feeding into 1, 12 in each. Do we have 2 go up, which would be 4 down out of 12 and 2 going up again? So that would mean that 6 teams get promoted or relegated. 6 teams stay where they are. I think that might work. We'll see. Going down a tier again, we have the junior leagues. So starting again in Connacht will have at least the Galway Championship and the Northwest League. The Northwest League is kind of a combination of Mayo, Sligo together. We'll possibly have a Galway first. We may or may not have a Northwest first. I'm dithering about Sligo and Leitrim. I'm inclined to put Sligo and Leitrim teams into the Northwest League and Roscommon teams into the Galway because they're generally closer anyway. But we'll have to see. Again, if you have a suggestion, if you think, no, also create the Sligo Leitrim League, we can do that. It won't be a very deep league, but we can do that. We have the technology, so don't be shy. Ulster will divide as well into 2 different junior leagues, the Donegal Premier League and the Ulster Junior Premiership, which splits down Donegal. I think we have enough teams in the competition in the database already to go to a first and a second, maybe even a third. Donegal is huge and there's a ton of football up there, so I think that's fair. Ulster, less. The rest of Ulster, less so. But I have a cunning plan. My plan is to include a few more teams from the dark side, a few more teams from over what will hopefully be a soft border with Northern Ireland, teams from the 6 counties. I did it last time round. I think it generally works. It gives an opportunity to do some fun and interesting and odd stuff there in terms of creating a difference. Ireland is one of very, very few leagues. Ireland, the US, the MLS, the USL is going to lose the Canadian teams, but the MLS has Canadian teams. The A-League in Australia has 1 New Zealand-based team, and I think, I could be wrong, I think at least the Singapore League has a couple of teams that aren't from Singapore, which makes sense because Singapore is tiny. So I think they have a team from Japan. They certainly do in different versions of this. They used to have the Malaysian under-23. So let's get jiggy with it, so to speak. Let's include a team from there. A couple of teams, maybe quite a few teams from Northern Ireland. The other side of things, of course, is... do you want me to include a team from the Isle of Man? I'm willing and game to give that a shot. It's up to you. You have the power. Send me a message or comment below if you think it's worthwhile putting in Isle of Man teams, or if you think, no, there should be no Northern Irish teams. I'm not going to necessarily agree with everything you say, but I'll certainly have a listen to it. Moving on, we have the mess that is Leinster again. Leinster is such a mess, and it makes things more difficult in so many ways. So, firstly, we have, following down from Leinster North, the AUL leagues. Again, they're not linked up in real life, but I want to. And there's an argument to say that an AUL top division league team may be good enough for Leinster North Premier, or I suppose Leinster 1, if you like, in real life. I think we can get 4 leagues out of Dublin teams in both sides. So AUL North Premier, first 1A and 1B, because that's how they do it in Dublin. On the other side of things, the combined counties. This, I don't know if it really is a league in a real sense. It has existed in the past. Don't know about now. But we'll give them a Premiership, a Championship and a First. If we have enough teams, we'll create more. We may not have enough teams. So again, ideas, suggestions, they're welcome. Generally, the combined counties teams tended to be from Louth, from Meath, from Longford, from the north of Leinster. But I'm willing to go as far south as Laois if we have to pilfer teams. Following on to Leinster South Premier, all the way down. We'll just keep AULs. Premier first, 1A and 1B, all in the south side. Southeast Championship opens up wide, as does the other one. So we'll have a Wexford Premier going down to a Wexford 1, 2 and a 2B. I think there's like a Wexford 5A in the 9 or 10 leagues there are. I have a little piece of paper that I'll look that up on when we get around to looking at Wexford. Last time I did Wicklow Premier, because I'm not from there, I don't have as many teams to pull from. So there was just a Premier and a First. Last time there was just a Premier. And then I had a Carlow Kilkenny League, because there aren't generally as many teams there. So we did Carlow Kilkenny Premier and a Carlow Kilkenny Championship. I think we can do the same again. I don't think it's impossible. Maybe it is. Now, on to Munster. Because there are so many teams, and I wanted to try and fit all this on the one screen, I kind of cheated. So when you actually go to this online, you'll see it divided up properly, because you have the power to scan open and click on these guys and see exactly what is really there. So in this case, we have Cork West following down, Cork AUL West and East, an AUL West 1 and a West 2. Similarly, an AUL East, an AUL East and an AUL East 2. So that should be an AUL West and an AUL West 2, AUL East and East 2. Clare, Premier Division on the 7th tier with the AULs and a First. And then Limerick, which is an insane hotbed of so much football. Limerick Premier on tier 7, and A, B and C on tier 10. So at the moment, because we don't have that really on the other side, we have possibly 4 leagues in the 10th tier. Wexford 2B, if we can do that, if we can get teams enough. An AUL South and a North 1B and a Limerick C. So as you get towards the bottom, the letters come out. Finally, we have, following the line up through Munster East, Cork AUL East, as we said before, Waterford Premier and First, and a Tipperary Premier and Championships. Again, if I have more teams than I know what to do with, which would be great, I will plug them in all throughout, and we will create this monster league. So that is the structure plan. If you've got ideas to tweak or fiddle with it, get them to me soon, because my aim is I am going to build these 3 first and then start moving down through the senior leagues one at a time. I'll do other bits and pieces as I go along, but I'm looking forward to having sort of a bit of fun creating these as I go along. So I'm going to click off our league structure. The plan for today is what we're going to do is, all going well, we're going to create a Premier Division for Ireland. Let me get this right. General. Where is it? Divisions. We're going to create the Premier Division, and we're going to create the First Division. And then after that, if we've got time, I'll have a look at cups and structure. Actually, I've realised I've gone way longer than I planned. I want these to be about 20 minutes at most. So let's have a quick start at the very bare basics of how we're going to do this. We're going to create the Premier Division. We're going to populate it, and then I'll get back to you at a later point, and we'll do an episode solely on the cups. So select competition. Now, Premier Division. You can see a number of them are already up. Not because I created... I tweaked some of them, but it's not because I created them. It's more because mostly they tend to put in any leagues that are not extinct, that are there and available already. You can see the stuff disappearing. Oh, well, not for me, it's disappearing down the bottom. It isn't for you. I find it interesting what they've included and what they haven't. But either way, the most important thing, Premier Division, is the competition. Number of teams, 10. That's because that's how many teams are currently in it. Next, settings. So it might be wise to include more. Number of rounds, For a 16-team league, I think 2 rounds is enough. That's basically 30 games. I think that's fair because I'm going to throw a ton of cup games in there. So they will be happy with 30 games there. Substitution rules. I'm a real modernist. I think 3 from 7 is the way. I know in Italy they're doing 3 from however many you have. I think 3 from 7 is fair. We will mess about with this as we go down through the leagues, by the way. Number of promotion places, 0, because we can't have any. Number of relegation places, 3. This may change, because in order to create a setup where you can have interesting promotion and relegation with playoffs and such, it may mean that I have to change it to 2, and then there's another one, or maybe another 2 that are available. We'll talk about that later. League of Ireland traditionally played on a Sunday. These days it's played on a Friday night. So let's put it on a Friday night. The big games are on the Friday. The main bunch of games are on the Friday, but we can have TV dates on whenever. So now we have a Premier Division. You can look it up here. I'm lazy. I'll generally just double click this. And normally it comes up. Well, that might be a tweak for the season. Let's go to competition. Add condition. Name. Contains. I'm going to be lazy and dial Irish. Prem. You should get a number of them. Yeah, that was foolish. We won't go is. Add condition. And we will go with type. Domestic top division. Yeah, see. Apply filter. Boom. There you go. Reputation of 95. Is extinct? No. We've got our colours. Lowest category allowed. Is extinct. Competition stuff. I'm really excited to try one thing out in particular. We're going to bring in referee and or remote review. Let's go and or. And let's bring in VAR. Ooh, that's very good. I've got a variety of choices for VAR. TV matches only from stage, main stage name, stage onwards, sub-stage name from date. Oh, so we could decide when it starts. That's pretty cool. But there we go. I mean, that's your basics. So there's our first teams. Currently, those are the 10 teams that are there as of last season. So we're going to add, and we're going to do this cheeky. Let me go by nation is Ireland, Ireland, and we're going to go by reputation. So prem, and then do we have any? Yeah, Bray Wanderers slinking down the bottom. I think we'll keep Bray up. They've been noble and brave and stuff, but we need to add 6 teams. So we'll throw back in Galway, back in Drogheda, back in Shelburne, back in Longford, back in Finn Harps, back in Athlone. Is there anybody who's more deserving? UCD? Nah. No, let's go with those guys. Okay, so we have 6 teams going in. We have 16 teams in the division now. So some have negligible transfers, which is fair. How has Waterford got that and Cork got nothing? I'm not complaining, but wow, it's good to be the king. Now let me double check to make sure we have the right number of teams. There's nothing here that prevents us. Good, nothing wrong there. Teams in region, records history. We don't want to change any of these things. We might want to mess about with this pre-match press conferences. Let's do those for the big games and all games for the post-match. Obligatory. Let's make it manager attended. We want to really push the League of Ireland, so maximum questions of 10. Okay, so that's our Premier League sorted. We go back to this database. We go back to Nation Rules, Irish Premier Division, and we bring it down here. Now we can actually do more editing on it from here. This is so what I've done there is I've tweaked the actual division, but I need to make sure everything is level here. So it says minimum number of teams 10. We need to make that 16. We need to make this 16. This is actually pretty cool because it means that a league can grow over time if you want it to develop into being a bigger sized league. Number of rounds 2. Points for a win. I think it's default for 3, 1, 0, but you can change that. Disappointingly, you don't have the opportunity to change it to what was the word I was looking for? You don't have the opportunity to change it so that you can have different points for away wins and home wins, which was the case in the League of Ireland in the early 1980s. They had an experiment with that. Fixture priority. They say domestic league low. I'm inclined to leave it at that because that means that things get moved for cups. Still the same number of relegation or promotion places. Reserve teams cannot be promoted. That's fair. Block teams from promotion. Ooh, tasty. League sorting rules. This I'm a big believer in. Making certain is sorted. I tend to only go 3 or 4 down. Goal difference always first for me, and goals for is second. Let's see. So you can see there's quite a few options here. Home record, away record. My inclination, because I mean, if I put goals for in after goals, whatever, I think that kind of makes it a bit of a joke. Goals at home, goals away. So I think results from matches between teams once league has finished. I mean, it doesn't really matter until then, but I think it should matter. And let's see, games won away from home. So I mean, I think that makes it fun and interesting. Now, TV money per club. Let's go rich. Let's make it 10,000. I don't believe in relegation parachute payments. I don't think we need to use special fixtures. Dates, however, we need to get sorted. And they're automatically sorted, end date and start date. I'm going to make the end of the league a little bit later, or a little bit earlier. Hang on, let me check that again. It says the 24th. I'm going to make it the 17th, because I want the last game of the season to be the cup final. I'm also going to change the start date to being a little bit later, because I kind of also want the let's start with the 7th, the 8th of March. I want there to let's start with the 1st of March. I want to have the League Cup group grounds out of the way before we start. We've traditionally had so many different ways of running the League Cup in Ireland. For my favourite one was when there was like groups of 4 and the top team went through, but that's decades ago. Friday night at 3 o'clock, not bloody likely. 19:30 hours makes sense. Check for clashes with all except continental cups, so we'll avoid that. Break period. Yes, I'm a great believer in having a break in the middle of the season, and we do actually have a 2-week break in June, believe it or not, from the 1st of June until the 14th of June. That's called the 15th of June. Give them a couple of weeks off. The computer generates the game dates, so it can be messy. Now, big deal. TV games. And I want there to be a couple. I want the League of Ireland to be properly pushed. So we'll have the first game sort of like the preview game that we get on a Saturday night. I think 2 games on a Saturday, or maybe not. A game on a Saturday, a game on a Sunday, and a Monday evening game. So 4 games a week are aired on television. Now, original day. Deary me, I've got that backwards. Let's remove. So games on a Friday, and move to firstly a Thursday. Let's duplicate that, and again. Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, and a Monday. And we'll put those games, actually, let's not do that. Let's do the Friday night game being a 21. Let's see, if we're starting at 7:30, 21:15 for the telly. Saturday, 19 hours. Sunday, 15 hours. And Monday, it'll put it 8 o'clock. Okay, TV type. This is where I actually think it's really interesting. So let's make this a satellite, the pay-per-view game. Let's make the Sunday one national television, and the Saturday one national, and the Monday. Let's make that national there. And why does it say don't televise the televised game? I think that's in order so that you can have games that aren't that are moved just for the sake of being moved. And let's realistically look at who would have the money here. So national game, Sunday afternoon is games with a big away attendance. Monday night games, we'll go with the big match. Satellite will get a minor game, and then the pay-per-view gets shared around. So that gives a lot of opportunity for these teams to make money. And you can see you have all this freedom to do this down here if you don't want to do it up there. Personally, I prefer to bam, 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 bam. That's me. Prize money. This is something we'll discuss at a later point, possibly. Fixture rules, match day rules, squad rules, maximum squad size. Not stuff I'm going to do for the Premier. Other points deductions. Playoffs. Relegation playoffs, promotion playoffs, championship playoffs. So that's a helpful thing, the championship playoff when it comes to second division. Let's see. Yeah, let's hold off doing that from for the time being. Actually, no. Let's put in a relegation playoff. So we'll do it as a cup, I think. Teams from this division in the playoff. 1. And we'll put in. Currently, there's 2 teams in it. Number of teams relegated from playoff. 0. Match rules. AA. Oh, let's do the AABA penalties. Away goals. ABBA penalties. We won't use golden goal because that's weird. And we'll have 2 legs. So, with all that said and done, that's a good chunk of stuff done in 35 minutes. Oh my god, 34 minutes? I thought it was going to be closer to 20. Putting these things together takes time. So hopefully next time you see me, what we'll be doing is we'll be looking a little bit more at... Ooh, my structure went wrong. We'll be looking a little bit more at how we want the... Oh, I remember what I did. Sorry, folks. I upsized that in order to maximize what I could see. And you missed out. Sorry that my big head has been in the way. Either way, the plan is next time round I'll put in a few more leagues, the first and the 2 seconds. I've done some work on different bits and pieces, but we're going to have a look at the cups, how they're structured, how to put them together. We're not going to look at the FAI cup, the senior cup, but I'll show you the structure I have for them, and more than that, we'll start making some. So I hope that'll be a little bit of fun. For now, I'll say arrivederci, and I'll see you the next day. Have a good one. Take it easy. Bye.